Hey there friends, what's going on? David Potts with Song Notes here, and today we're going to look at a little bit of a lead guitar study. I'm going to end with what I just showed you there, the little intro 8-measure sequence. It was an original sort of solo I put together. Now it's inspired by the last song I just learned and another song it reminded me of and a favorite guitarist of mine who plays his solos in a certain way. I put all those together and just where my head was at in the past week and the skills I have as I'm learning lead guitar, but I'll show you that process of how I put it together, where my head was at. And the cool part is this all starts with open chords. I started with an open G, an open B minor, an open C, and a G. I guess the B minor is not open, but you get the idea. I'm sort of using basic chord shapes here. I started with this, but little by little, I started messing with different voicings for some of the chords, started just doing selective double stops and triads from certain chord shapes, started looking for melodic phrases and fills that could sort of connect those things together, and I ended up with that sequence. Okay, so we'll get into it here. There's a 2-page PDF I made. It has all the notes and tabs if you want to follow along, and I have a jam track as well. It's 5 minutes. It just goes over that 4-chord sequence, and it's great practice. 5 minutes long is a great little bite-sized thing. You get the tabs. You can just follow along with any of the different sequences I'll show you. It gives you something to practice and work on, and no matter what your sort of skill level is or your interest as far as progressing, if you want to work on rhythm, if you want to work on some lead stuff, or even fingerstyle, you could do that with this. So get that over at my website. But let's look at this really quick. Okay, let's start with the basic chord shapes, right? Our G, our B minor, our C, and back to our G. Now, I'm not going to be playing rhythm for this lesson after this because the jam track's going to take care of that for me. What I'm going to do is find ways where I can play on top of those chords. And it doesn't have to start crazy. You can start super simple. And what I mean by that is you could take just regular chord shapes as the G and the B minor are playing and the C, 2, 3, 4. You could just start playing the thinnest 3 strings for an example. And I'll sort of strum the G at the end. Right? I'm sort of going off the tab a little bit, but you get the idea. Just the thinnest 3 strings of each chord. It works on your ear. You're listening for the chord changes. And then you could pick them. Okay, I want to stop it right here and say, I actually got that inspiration for this from the girl from the North Country, Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash. In that opening 10 seconds of the song, you can hear the second guitar in the background doing that very thing. Right? As they're on the G, that guitar is just doing the thinnest 3 strings. And then that's a very famous riff in Girl from North Country. Right? The thinnest 3 strings of the B minor. That was the launching point I used. But I want to talk about how I took that and went to wildly different places, right? So I showed you that first progression there. What we're going to do next is, I looked at that B minor and I thought, this B minor, these 3 notes are coming from this barred version of B minor. What if we did a similar thing for the G and for the C? And what I mean by that is instead of playing our open G and our open C, what if we use some other voicings of those chords? Now, in my PDF, I have this chord shape appendix. And just to quickly show you what I mean here, for the G, you could play it open like this. But you also could use this E-shaped bar chord version of it, right? 3rd, 5, 5, 4th, 3rd, 3rd. And then later on, we're going to get up here and up here. These are all different ways of playing G major, which is just G, B, and D. Those are the 3 notes we're playing. Whether you play it up here or down here, the sound is a little bit different just due to the open strings and, this is higher in pitch and everything, but it's playing the same notes, right? So these are all valid ways to play Gs. Now, I had the same for the B minor and the C, but my point in showing you that was I wanted to look for other ways to do a G. Is there a triad I can take that's not from this open voicing? Let me look at this voicing, right? This E-shaped bar chord. And what if I just took the thinnest 3 strings? 4th, 3rd, 3rd, right? So 4th, 3rd, 3rd. That works out nicely for going to this 4th, 3rd, 2nd. Now what about the C? I don't want to do these open strings. I want to get out of open position. Well, it strikes me if I look at my C chords in the appendix here, I have my regular C, I have my A-shaped bar chord, 3rd and 5th fret, and later on we'll get up to 8th, 9th, and 10th fret. But for this little first sequence here, I wanted to use 5, 5, 5, just on the 4th, 3rd, and 2nd string. Now, let me play this sequence for you. And the final thing I'll say before I play it is for the second time I go to the G, you're going to notice I'm doing this one, 5/4 third. And the point of me bringing this up is I wanted to introduce a melodic sort of through line, right? Listen how you can hear the chord sort of go down. These triads go down in tone, in pitch, right? It's like going down steps, right? I love this because we're getting, even though it's very simple and very elementary, we're getting this introduction of melody. And it's a simple melody. It's just 4 notes going down in tone. But what you can do is put on the backing track, and just with that, whether you're doing a pick or finger style, you can sort of start to have fun. So let me show you what I mean here, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. Very basic picking here, but you could start to mess with So you get the idea there, right? I was sort of playing through those triads. I was experimenting with different sort of picking patterns. Again, whether you do finger style or with a pick, the idea there is take those triads and experiment with ways to play them. Experiment with the rhythm. You know, you could do some syncopation. I would encourage you to explore. Put the backing track on. Spend 5 minutes. It's a great way to sort of just push yourself to do things you're not comfortable with. But start with just 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right? The basics. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's where I started going. And I'm going to show you more of the same next, right? So now, this next sequence I call hunting for more triads, and again, more melodic through lines. So what I'm going to do here is look for other ways to play the G, and other ways to play the B minor, and other ways to play the C. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to keep in mind, can I sort of thread through a melodic phrase or an idea or a concept here? So, for the G, look at our appendix. What are some other options we have? Well, we know this one, but what if we keep going up the fretboard? I know that this is a G, right? 7, 8, 7. This is a triad. Now this is coming from this C-shaped bar chord. This is a G major. I'd never play it like this because the way I bend over, it's just really hard for me. But the thinnest 4 strings, I play a lot, right? There's a lot of great shapes here. You can do this shape for 3rd and 2nd string, or you can do this shape. We're going to use both of these before the lesson's done. So what if we use this for the G, right? Now, what are other ways to play the B minor? It turns out you have this version, which we all know, 2nd, 4th, 4th, 3rd, 2nd. But what about this one, 7, 9, 9, 7, 7, 7? Okay, this is just like an A minor, if you've ever learned that. Effectively, this is the E minor shape. You take the E minor shape, you just imagine the nut of the guitar right here is your bar, your index finger barred. You move it up, 7, 9, 9, 7, 7, 7. Now, I'm never going to strum all these strings, but what I am going to do is just bar those 3 strings, 7, 7, 7. That's a B minor triad right there. So we have this. We could do that G to that B minor, or we could do this G to this B minor, right? Now what about the C? We already know this one. But again, there's this one at 8, 9, 10. This is an E-shaped bar chord, and we could look at strings 4, 3, and 2. Nice little triad right there, right? I love this triad because none of your fingers are in the way of each other. Well, here's the sequence I put together next, using what I just showed you there, right? We're going to have this G, 1, 2, 3, 4, to this B minor, and we're going to go down to this C and this G. The reason why is I wanted to keep this going down in pitch, just like this one does. You'll notice that this one is sort of playing the same notes, really. But it's a different place and therefore a different way to practice it, right? And then in the second half of the sequence, I kept on going and I said, hey, what if we did this G and we kept going down, right? What would that look like? Well, let's do a B minor triad. This is like an A minor shape, right? To this C, to this G. Now those last 2 chords, they're triads, but they use open strings, which is fine in this case because I'm taking this melodic descending through line. It's going down the steps. And we have 8 measures where we're going down every single time. Let me play the backing track for you, and you'll see what I mean. B minor to C to G. And let's go. Ready? And we do G again to B minor to C to G. Get creative. Okay, a little bit of improvisation there, but again, if you know what chords you're playing, you can just play other notes from those chords here and there. It sounds good. So that was where my head went next. I wanted to keep going though. What are some other ways I can push things even further? So in this one, I went up to the G. It's up here, 10, 12, 12, 12. This is I never play this full chord, but it's good to know it exists, right? Now for the B minor, this one's tricky because if you imagine a D minor and you just slide that shape up, right? So we have this one for our G, we have this one for our B minor, we have this one for our C, and we have this one for our G. So we could go down. This is basically going down in pitch again, but it's starting really high. And then we're going to, again, start on that G, and then repeat kind of how we started the previous one. So again, it's more of the same, but this is the last sequence before my final one. And the final one, I put together something original that freely grabs from this whole salad bar of sequences. But let's practice this one really quick, just for due diligence, right? B minor to C. Okay, here we go. Messed up, I'll keep going. Get creative. Okay, so I added again a little bit of improvisation there, but using those, and a thing I want to call out that I just did there, I wasn't always playing all 3 strings of the triads. Sometimes I was just doing 2 strings, right? Strings 2 and 3, for example. You could take just 2 strings of all those triads I just showed you. So that would be called using double stops. You're just playing 2 notes at a time. And by basically only playing 2 notes, it's a bit easier to play. And then it just gives you more possibilities because for the next chord, you can use 2 different notes. And maybe you can switch to 2 notes, right? Go between the 2nd and 3rd string to the 1st and 2nd string. So then that arrives at our final sequence. I'm going to play it for you once here. And then after that, the second part of this video where I teach you this one step by step, because there's a bit more concepts going on here, that's going to be on my website. Check the link in the description, and you can get the tab for that as well in that video. But it's going to look like this when we put it all together. B minor, and back to G, and let's start it here. One more time. I'm just improvising here, but went off the rails there. I broke from my main sequence because I wanted to show you how you could take the sequence I'll teach you next. And once you learn it, you can go back to it, repeat it if you want. You can improvise, do whatever you want, go back to the main sequence. Or you could take parts of the sequence, right? Take the first half, and then after that, go off on your own little tangent. And again, it depends on your skill level and your ability to improvise. But if you want to learn that whole sequence in full, get part 2. It's on my website. The link's in the description. It has a tab in there. And again, you get the PDF as well, the print-friendly PDF with all the tabs and the jam track. Great thing to play over here. And check out my lesson for Girl from the North Country. And I have a lesson for The Wait by the band. They play that in the key of A, but it uses the same progression. 1 to the minor 3 to the 4 and back to the 1. So thanks for watching. Check out part 2 on my website, y'all. And I'll see you there, hopefully. Until then, bye-bye.